Introducing the Paddy Power World Darts Championship.
Welcome back to Online Darts, everyone. The build-up to the Paddy Power World Championship, and lucky enough to be invited to Duzz's man cave where all the coaching goes on. Glenn, first of all, thanks for the invite. I love it up this part of the country.
I know you do. I mean, I know you come down in the summer as well, and I think it's Scarborough you're off to tonight, isn't it? So, yeah, you're only about 20 minutes away from Whitby. You can literally see the riverside where you're at now, and yeah, you're in the room with all my memorabilia around, and yeah, hope you like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, this time of year, even though you're not playing now, it's still an exciting time of year, the build-up and the anticipation to the World Championships.
I get the same buzz right now than I did as a player. Like I said, there was a period in my life where I began to really hate darts, and I was thinking, what am I going to do next? And the joy of still being involved in the sport that I love, yeah, the butterflies are there. I think I've looked at the draw more, you know, than I did as a player, because as a player you can try and plan your route. It's a dangerous thing to do there. So, and like I say, I'm a pundit now, so I've got to look at every individual game from, you know, all the players from, you know, the cosmopolitan field that we've got, but the excitement's real.
I remember this time last year you were excited because it was your first World Championship. Yeah. You were still unsure about the journey, but since then, the way that you've adapted to life as a pundit and keep getting back and back, you must be enjoying this so much and growing all the time.
Yeah, because at first I tried to be Dan Dawson. I tried to be a wordsmith like Rod Studd. I was using words where it took my wife to sort of say, Glenn, I've never heard you speak like this. And I was like, yeah, but that's what Dan Dawson says. That's what Rod Studd says. That's what Stuart Pike says. And so it took a while. I'm really thankful for the Motor Super Series because all the mistakes I made, and the Motor Super Series is a bit like the championship of football. I knew I was going into the Premier League with Sky and commentating on the best players in the world, but it was a great grounding, and I felt like I made a lot of my mistakes at the Motor Super Series, and then if I'd have gone straight into Sky directly from, it might have been just a little bit more interesting, but loving it.
Look, everyone's talking about Luke and Luke at the World Championships. Is it as clear-cut as those two, do you feel?
No, definitely not. Not with 96 players. And it's interesting because you look at preparation. You're in my dart room now. I locked myself away before an alley pally, before a lakeside. And, you know, someone like Luke Humphries, every exhibition, from the Paddy Power 147 Golf Challenge to every exhibition, he's on it. I mean, he is producing the goods, another 100-plus average to win Newcastle last night, I believe. I was the opposite for preparation, you know, no gigs, no nothing for 2 weeks prior. But it is a profitable time for players right now. It's really important that the Luke and Luke go into that, you know, with a full tank of petrol. So it's interesting watching the preparation of the guys, but too many good players to say it's Luke and Luke.
Yeah, it's interesting. I spoke to Nathan Aspinall in Newcastle last night, and he did what you did last year, and he said it didn't work, so he's gone with the Humphries approach this year, and he's out all over the place as well. So it is interesting, like you say there.
It's really important because people, I do a lot of mentoring now, and you know, there's my computer there, a lot of Zoom meetings. How would you prepare for this, Glenn? And what works for me might not work for Nathan Aspinall. So being on the road and getting the match practice certainly worked for Gerwen Price. It's interesting that he's not on as many exhibitions these days. So it'll be interesting to see sort of how he plays, because he hates practicing on his own and whatever. So there's a lot of questions to be asked. It's going to be an unbelievable competition.
Look, you touched on everyone else there, and we'll come back to Luke and Luke in a minute. But there are so many question marks around so many top players at the moment because, with the greatest of respects, there are many of them not in the best of form right now.
Yeah, like I said, it's such a long season as well. You want to peak at the right time. And there's a lot of players who I think are not playing very well, but I think that stage, that buzz that you get, that way, I think you'll still see a lot of the players that you talk about not in great form produce the goods there. I don't think it's going to be a competition where it's going to be one for the underdog, because 2024 has just been unbelievable from, you know, the winners that we've had. I think the cream will rise to the top, and I think those players that you're talking about right now will deliver.
Are you surprised we're getting into a World Championship and not many people are talking about Michael van Gerwen right now?
Yeah, and I'm one of them. I haven't got an awful lot of expectation on Michael, but doesn't he always prove us wrong as well? It's been a long time since he sort of lifted a title. He's the second best player, in my opinion, to ever pick up a dart. What a story that could be, because I think it's the opinion of many players, maybe prior to Littler, but his A game is still the best in the world of darts. Can he find it?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because a lot of people still say it now. They're waiting for Michael too far, and a lot of them even say now that if he's on, he still beats Luke. That's how highly his A game is regarded.
Yeah, I thought Vincent van der Voort might play a big part, because I think maybe what Michael needs is routine again. How do you motivate yourself when you're Michael van Gerwen? He's achieved everything he's probably ever wanted in darts. He's a very rich man. How do you then motivate yourself to go to the World Championships again this year and find that? And maybe it's just that supportive play to give him routine. And maybe Vincent was that person, or is that person, to sort of get the best out of him, but never write him off.
Is that fight, that challenge, that motivation you talk about, though, getting to Luke and Luke again? Because we saw him when he wanted to get past Barney and be Dutch #1, when he was chasing Phil, that rivalry with Gary Anderson for a while. Is this arguably his biggest challenge, getting to Luke and Luke?
Yeah, I think trying to put the afterburners on to get over Phil Taylor was there, the motivation you could see, the new kid on the block, and to get past Phil and do what he did there, and then with Barney and all the rest of the players that come to him. But sometimes when you're sprinting fast and you're still not getting anywhere near, because as good as Michael van Gerwen can be, you just sense that Luke Humphries and Luke Littler are putting numbers together, which is, it's just a new phase in the world of darts. And even the A game of Michael right now might not be enough to take on those two. The consistency of elite darts right now is linked with the two Lukes.
I remember speaking to you at the Worlds last year about Luke Littler. He'd just beaten Andrew Gilding, and that X factor was around him. Roll on 12 months. Have you been blown away with what the young man has done?
Yeah, I never predicted it. I knew about this precocious talent. I've watched like many, winning England boys, Europe Cups, doing incredibly well on the WDF. I remember him winning the British Open and British Classic at Bridlington, and as much as I dominated the BDO, I never really got, did the double. Never once did I look at that World Championship, but I think it was James Wade went out with that section of the draw, and it just sort of opened up a little bit. But yeah, and then you've got all the pressure from January of being this, all eyes on him. I think he's handled it terrifically. Yes, he had a bit of a blip with a couple of first round defeats on TV, but I think there was a lot going on behind the scenes as well. I think he's absolutely amazing, and I think he's got the right team around him. He's not big-headed, Phil. No, I keep expecting even behind the scenes to be a little bit arrogant. I've asked him for selfies, and just behind you there's a signed shirt from him. Signed it, no problem whatsoever. I've had a couple of photographs with him. He looks very, very normal. I think he's been incredible, and I think the people behind him want the credit as well.
I remember last year as well, Gary Anderson warned the media to leave him alone and let him play, and he's embraced this, because he's not just been sports media. He's been on front page media, magazine media. Like you say, for 17 years old, the way he's handled that transition is like nothing I've seen. Yeah,
and he keeps the answers very succinct. He just answers them quite responsively. He doesn't sort of over elaborate the answers. He doesn't witter on like I do, etc. He just gets to the point, same tone. And I don't think it's media trained. I just think it's part of what his DNA is all about. But I think he handles everything extremely well. We should be very proud of him.
Luke Humphries is talking about legacy at this year's World Championship. That carrot of going and defending it, because it is a very rare club that have defended the Sid Waddell trophy, and the marker he set down at Minehead, he's the full focus again, isn't he?
Yeah, I love him. Honestly, I do. I think he's so eloquent, so articulate. He's got that controlled aggression as well. I was even laughing at the discussion he had with Sean Murphy at the snooker this week. So he's got that little bit of fight about him. He's not afraid to say he's the best. He's not afraid to sort of say, I'm going to do this. And from where he come as well. I mean, I've got messages on my phone when he was really down. He looked a little bit overweight at the time. He wasn't mentally right, but I think it was Wiltshire who was playing county darts for, and he was just Berkshire was. I think he might have even played Wiltshire, but he was putting some real numbers together. And then, when people are looking for success, it took me till I was 45-year-old to win a tournament. It took Luke Littler, 12-year-old to win a tournament. Success comes a certain time, and it's that real period now for Luke Humphries. And, based on the fact that Luke Littler's getting all the headlines, I think Luke Humphries has just been sensational this year. I think on and off the hockey, he's been amazing.
I know Peter Wright's someone that you've got the utmost respect for, the way he took you in when you first joined. But he's finding it tough right now. The performances as well are concerning. He's averaging only 70s on TV, which is so unlike Peter Wright. As a coach here with your head on, are you concerned about Peter's game right now?
What was Premier League number 1? Was it Newcastle? Wherever it was. Cardiff. It's the only message I've sent Peter Wright this year. And his throw had gone at that point. And I just said, look, as someone who studies and as someone who you try to help me, because when I was averaging 60s and 70s, he said, come to my house for a week. Just come and spend some time. Might not even play a lot of darts. So I felt I wanted to reach out to Peter as well. And there was a period in the middle of the year where I thought, he's looking good again. So he's someone who holds the dart out. And then the big thing for him is on that point of release. And when there's a lot of boxing memorabilia behind you, when it's really jabby, that's when you're seeing the sort of low average. But there was a period where he was looking as smooth as ever. And I've stood behind Peter Wright when he's banged 110 averaging, so you sort of know what you're expecting. It just, when you don't have that belief that the dart's going in. So when I was throwing a dart sort of style over substance. If I was trying to get the throw right and forgetting that, you just you're making the game really difficult. And I just think Peter needs to strip it back. I mean, he is the guy who's used 3 sets of darts in a match and whatever. So, that's the whole thing about what Peter Wright, but it's very difficult to bounce back now. When you're on that downwards trajectory, when you're sort of striving to search your game, a couple of weeks on the practice board, it may help, but I think it's a very, very difficult. And his age as well. I was in that, I would do a competition in my 50s and then, I'm struggling the next day to play darts. There's these young players coming through with no fear whatsoever, so it could be a difficult period for Peter Wright.
Well, it's interesting on this take of yours, because obviously I remember speaking to you when it wasn't going the way you wanted it to, and you knew the slide was there, and in your head you knew the end game was close.
I did.
Do we think that Peter will be thinking the same?
No. I think he'll come out and say, I'm going to win this. Now, whether it's bravado, whether it's just putting positive into the subconscious. Because don't forget, when I'm saying I'm not going to win, what are you telling yourself when you get on the hockey? You're not going to win. And every interview Peter Wright's done, it's sort of like, no, I'll win the Worlds this year. So that could be someone who's working with a psychology, that could be just something that's, that belief in him. But it's very difficult to watch someone with the CV and the calibre of Peter Wright, and going back to my problems of is he just sort of telling himself when in reality it's going to be really tough.
Well, you touched on the CV. It is glittering, and the way he's crashed out of tournaments recently in the opening rounds, if he was to go early in the Worlds, could you see him walking away to protect that legacy?
No, I don't. But in hindsight, when I won the Premier League, I wish I'd walked away then, because it's something crazy. I didn't win under 10, and the feedback I get off people now is they remember me of losing every game. It's a bit of a jibe, it's a bit of a joke. No one remembers in 2019 where people were talking about me being the best player in the world. So that would be one thing I would say to Peter: don't let that legacy, don't go out within a damp squib. But who am I to tell the 2 times champion of the world? If he still has that belief and that desire to get up there, but I would hate to see him fade away.
Well, talking about that age bracket as well, the other spectrum of this is Gary Anderson. That is getting better with age. The numbers he's posted on the Pro Tour this year, the European Tour, a Game of the Year contender. With Luke Littler, he goes to Ali Pali as one of the favourites to become a 3-time world champion. Yeah,
course and distance winner as well. But 10 years on from his I went to watch him at the Pro Tour and I was like, Glenn, you're not commentating on the next game. So I thought, I've got to go and look at him. And he looked well. His balance looked great. The darts were firing beautifully. And correct me if I'm wrong, but he has that little bit of bulbous on the dart, which he used against me in the semi-final of the Premier League. If he'd have used a straight dart, I think I averaged 87 in that semi-final of the Premier League. And to see him continue with that dart, it's flying beautifully. And I guess, based on his age, has he got that You know, it will fatigue being an issue in a competition. And the competition only really gets tiring round about the last 16 when you play. You know, the early doors, I think you'll see the best of Gary Anderson just get up there and steamroll. But it's great to see, and arguably the best he's ever played right now.
Yeah, that bit of bowl was technically, I spoke to him about it. He said the way he spins it, the straight dart, he was struggling to fire it off his thumb because that's what he pushes from. Right. Where that bowler spit sits and it pushes off his thumb brilliantly.
But he used them for the very first time.
I remember it.
And any other dart, he would have wiped the floor with me because I was a goner with my throw. It was only the fact that I won that match against Gary that I seemed to find something against Nathan Aspin in the final. But I was gone as a player. Yeah, I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world that week.
Look, the World Championship, the buzz and that around it, and there's a lot of talk at the moment, and obviously TV deals, sponsorship deals, and Barry's reiterated again that he wants that £1 million within a couple of years. Some statement that would be if it could happen that quickly.
Oh, I think we'll be seeing the winner of the World Champions getting £1 million very soon. Yeah, I mean, when Barry speaks, he backs it up with what he says there, and like I said, it's an interesting period for broadcasting as well, with TV deals up. So it's going to be an intriguing year that way. But if you want the PDC dart, you're going to have to pay for it.
Barry also announced to the world that we are going to 128 next year. What's your initial thoughts on that? One, as a former player, two, as a broadcaster, and three, from your PDPA stances, because there's a lot to take in when you expand it that much.
Yeah, it's extra 4 days, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just, the competition feels long now. But look, there's a clamour for it. The tickets go out, it's up for sale. 128 players is a nice round number. What stage do the top 16 coming, top 32, so be interesting to see there. But it's an opportunity for the global aspect. You know, could be seeing countries that have never represented at the PDC Worlds. Where it looks like it's going to be a month-long competition before we know it, doesn't it? And listen, I am not one for, if Barry says it's going to be 128, that's going to be 128.
Let's talk about you for a minute. Obviously, we saw you play at the seniors in Sunderland and the Modus Influencer event. I know we spoke off camera, so I know you won't mind me saying this, but it didn't look as if you enjoyed your time whatsoever. Have we seen Glen Durrant throw his last competitive darts ever?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not going to make a statement because I'm still really busy on the exhibition circuit right now. You know, when Jason said, "Will you play the seniors?" It's very difficult to say no to. It was in Sunderland. You know, I usually take an army of people behind me, but I guess that army of people are not enjoying watching me getting beat regularly. I don't think I've won a game in the seniors. The influencer event was a part of, the Modus Super Series has been good to me. And immediately when I said yes, then I thought, what have I done? I was driving home straight after it, which probably tells you I didn't have high expectations. So to get to the final was good, but every dart was very, very difficult. And I'm watching a 12-year-old Jaden Walker in backstage just going 180. Though I had about half an hour where I think I hit about 20 180s. You know, so it's in there. I don't want it to come out no more. The fire's not in the belly. You know, look what I've achieved. It's time for other people now. You know, my desire is, what you're doing now, asking questions, commentating, punditry, coaching. I'm enjoying my PDPA work, being there for people, the well-being and supportive. So Glen Durrant, the dart player, I'd be surprised if he plays another competitive game.
Well, obviously on the PDPA stuff as well, it's been a busy time. Obviously, the devastating news just before the Players' Championship finals that Dom Taylor had failed a drugs test and will be suspended pending his obviously hearing date.
Yeah. When
this goes on in the sport, is it a reminder to everyone that it is a professional sport now and there are standards that they have to achieve to? Yeah,
and with Leighton Bennett as well this week, it's sad to see 2 young players going through what they're going to be through because, for Leighton, he's made a stupid mistake. And it could affect, how do you bounce back after 8 years? He still will only be 26 if and when he comes back. Really sad. And Dom Taylor, for me, was up there as one of the young players of the year. Silly boy. You know what I mean? It's like it is a professional sport. He's got good people around him. But when when you're failing drugs tests, I mean, the answer's there. I hope Dom will play a part in sort of making sure that other players don't do it. Really sort of educating. That's why I love working on the PDPA now. I want to see what the issues are, and we don't want to see young people leave the game. Both players were so promising, Leighton Bennett and Dom Taylor, contrasting DRAs, of course, drugs and match fixing, but we just don't need it in the game. It needs addressing, but for me as a PDPA director now, it's about educating the young players coming through. The Jaden Walkers, and we've seen Kai Tiffin at 9-year-old this week, bang a 70 averaging. There's loads of young players at the academies. It's our job at the PDPA and the PDC to make sure the education's out there and that other players don't make those silly mistakes.
The first time, arguably ever, darts is rock and roll, where they're being treated like footballers, not on the back pages, but the front pages of newspapers as well. And there's an extra responsibility that comes with that. When it's just darts media talking about darts, it's not acceptable, but it doesn't get seen by the wider audience, where now everything is under scrutiny. Yeah,
and some of the vile that comes out with the national papers as well. I mean, some of the rubbish I read, you've just got to be so squeaky clean right now. You've got to make sure you're looking at your socials. I mean, still too many players, in my opinion, lose a game and I'm going 10, 9, 8, right, let's click on their social media. I've just played like a bag of nails, blah, blah, blah. So there's loads of things out there. You've just got to be really squeaky clean, because one mistake, they're all over you.
The sport has never been in a better place, though, has it? For all the scrutiny that we're giving it one side, the other side of it, the sport has never been in a better place. It's just,
and one of the questions I got asked at an exhibition recently was, I bet you wish you were a top 16 player now. Phil Taylor, like 16 times. Imagine 16 times world champion with the money that's out there now. It's never been in a better place. The numbers, the tickets are getting sold. It's global now. We're seeing players. Just imagine if I thought the Asian players are really good at the World Championship. Imagine if one of them could come through. The Scandinavians, the North Americans. We're going to see them all come to this incredible party at Alexander Palace, and it's a real global game. The World Series has, people have questions about it, but it's getting our sport in territories that you can only see on TV. It's tremendous, and I only see you going forward in the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's just mental what this year has done for the sport.
The Luke Littler effect, and Luke Humphries can kill me for saying that, but the Luke Littler effect is staggering, and I see that with this room that I'm in here, and the amount of people that come in for coaching. I want to be the new Luke Littler. He's been incredible for the sport.
It's been bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
Going back to Ali Pali on the Luke Littler effect, what will he be going there this year? Because last year it was a free hit, where this year there is genuine mammoth expectation on the boy.
That's the word. The expectation. It's very difficult as well. And again, you're asking me questions. I can only go back to, have I ever been in that situation? And I remember being 5 to 6. I'm not great with betting, but 5 to 6 tells me I'm pretty much an even money favourite to win Lakeside. So even getting runner-up, people are going, unlucky. So that expectation's there right now, but he just has the right people around him. From Target, from his dad, who I've got to know, his family are there. He has this guy walking around with him, almost like a 24-hour security as well. So it's difficult to get close of him. His manager's outstanding, looks after Chris Dobie, Nathan Aspinall. So he's very difficult there. I just think his darts will do the talking, and I don't think it'll be an issue. Mouthwatering possibility of Fallon Sherrick against Luke Lillows with Fallon last week, but hey, Ryan Meikle, I mean, what a player he is, so he could be the party pooper for that.
Well, you beat me to it there. That look, I'm not dismissing Ryan because he is a fabulous player, but if Fallon can win, that game would break the internet, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. And there's another player who's done extraordinary. The vile stuff that was aimed at Fallon. From the day she smashed the glass ceiling onwards, and she dealt with it tremendously. I think she's a great advocate for darts, a real, she deserves everything she gets, and maybe that moment versus Luke Littler would be earth shattering.
The Winmore World Masters is back in its original form, not with the WDS/BDO where it was. The PDC have now taken it on. I know it's a format that you love, that's synonymous with you. Are you excited to see this in the PDC?
Yeah, first of all to the WDF as well, but it wasn't the same competition with I would never ever say anything bad about the BD or WDF. All the memorabilia that's around you now is pretty much them, but it done its time, hadn't it, there? And when the PDC get hold of something, you know, that could be the best time of the year. It's different, you know, the format is so exciting, you're never out of it. You know, they're at 2-0 down, 1-0 down, you know, you can still come back from that there. The PDC will make that very similar to the UK Open. That could be so exciting.
Premier League next year, I can see your bits on the wall when you won it. It's the second or third biggest tournament in the year. Some people have it second, some people have it third.
First.
But when we've got players like Gerwen Price and Gary Anderson saying, I don't want to be picked, even if I'm asked, I'd turn it down. Is that a headache for the PDC, that one of the absolute premium tournaments, you've got established box office names saying, I don't want to be part of it?
Yeah, Gary Anderson, I can understand. He has to manage his time. Again, I'm going back to the over 50s thing. Your body's not as responsive as it was. I used to practice 6 hours a day in a house just over there, no problem whatsoever. Get back on the board. At your 50s, you've got to manage, and that's something why Gary Anderson's maybe doing very well at the moment. He manages his time incredibly well. Gerwen Price has openly admitted that he's a real family man. He really misses being away from home and being with his family. Well, maybe he's got his wish at the moment because he's not travelling as much, and maybe he's got that fight and that desire for the sport again. So we could see a different narrative coming from Gerwen Price. Understand the question, but my first thoughts when you ask the question, isn't this a great opportunity for the Mighty Deckers of this world, for the Richie Edhouses of this world? You know, there's so many opportunities, so many players who would relish that opportunity. It is difficult to be on the road from the Wednesday to whatever. You're pretty much living out of a suitcase, but it could be a great opportunity and move over Price and Anderson, in come Edhouse and De Decker.
Before I let you go, who lifts the Sid Waddell Trophy this year?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Luke Littler, but I'd like to sort of just put a couple of things. I think we're going to see the greatest ever semi-final with Luke Humphries. I think the section, Michael Smith still, there's something in there. I want Chris Dobey to win that section, of course, but I just keep looking at Michael Smith. So I still think that bottom half, I'm going to have a real scrutinise of what's going on. There'll be lots of thrills and spills. There'll be Wessel Nyman is in a section where it couldn't have fell any better for him as well. I think he's I can't even say the outsider value for money because I think he's 7th favourite. But I do think we're going to see something quite momentous, and I think Luke Littler lifts the title.
Glenn, absolute pleasure catching up with you in the build-up to the World Championships, and thank you very much for the invite.
Thank you, Phil.